Hello, species value neutral system. I want to talk to you about what the Trinity is, especially, and it's three semi-natures, also with a relationship to a perfect value progression, only let realized or keeping negative value nature as the value of our identities as a constant value of progression onto it, and as more and more made lasting forever nature as the value of the identity of the nature that is recorded scientifically discernibly bond to and as the value of all finite means the smallest value, the order to that even, simultaneously with and as being the value of all active body of value discernment, which is in relationship. This is the course always. That's why we have three natures of cells. And with cell walls, sharing the shared cell wall body of value discernment. This is why not just photosynthesis, but photosynthesis is relationship to also non-distinct relationship, the same way to all parts of semi-nature. Our space nature, just to all parts of semi-nature itself. It's temporary space nature already. See, it was already a little bit. It was the value of one nature semi before temporary space nature. That was his gaining as a. In short, we're conjunction. The Holy Ghost is about a conjunction nature. How we are a conjunction nature to the simultaneously about how our nature as a body of value that is invisible but still discernible the same way oxygen is and carbon gases are through correlation in relationship to being able to measure them with our blood and how plants are making that. Where and has and how identity of value progression greater than oxygen or carbon gases is keeping them both positive, making more positive here. What's not letting that happen is being forced from here. That's what causes evolution, not just de-evolution. When it's top down, when there's one little species depleting the value of Earth. Because we're value nature systems, where value nature is values nature, but it's also its simultaneously distinct and simultaneously non-distinct relationship to itself, and simultaneous value. So, Yin Yang, Allah, Romulus and Remus, why leave out Adam and Eve? Why leave out? This is about how we are left to right nature. The difference between the value of the sexes is because of their simultaneously being a right to left nature and a left to right nature, semi-nature, where you could see the value together, which is all progressions, finite, active body of value, and together in relationship to the system that causes evolution or de-evolution. And per a value in nature of Campus Marcius that was criminally re-engineered since semi-ancient times, from mine. And so until then, we shop at the campusmarcius.com, spelled with a C, not a T, because they put that too, because there was database illusion stacking, uncharged and unexplained, with behavior, crime, method, maintaining each position of areas and states of all modern nations. Worse than just justifying criminally re-engineered original nature of sciences. They have need, how these are non-distinctly and distinctly in demonstration of the same thing for a reason. Yin Yang is about not just black and white, night and day. It's about the identity of that is to all bonding all values of progressions onto its further value that's only realized. But again, this is per fact treatment nature too. Obligations per treatments of reality that are being prevented because of pseudo positives forced within as the value of the nature of negotiations, within as the value of the nature of the Constitution left abridged, sub rosa, body of value discernment, not even debatable, even with Jim Crow laws, and even with justifications of treatments of that. In other words, even explaining it now, fail. The branches, the same way they did when they were motivated to need to pretend they believe witch trials were behind, or they believe that drugs were the motivations of the branches' inclusion with, branches as. So, in other words, this devil knew in semi-ancient time, since more before modern religions, the devil, a human fact treatment nature racket, knew that if it could tactically get the world defending, according to me or not, tactically degraded sciences, it could stay the world measured to spots, live progression, cover up natures, roles exploiting how the identity of space is simultaneously coming downward, upward, right to left, and left to right, and how that has an effects nature relationship to itself. Before then, as the value of these three semi-natures, and the finite with that. At the same time, this is how English is revealed to teach the nature of sciences and identity of sciences. That the sciences shares why Jesus Christ says he is the Alpha, he is the Omega. That's why alphabet begins with the word alpha. This is about why Allah's name, value Al, in Arabic, why that is the definite article, the. You should be if you're speaking about a subject, which is a body of value, which this course is all about. That's why every body of life has a trinity relationship to itself. Even plants, they have cell nucleus, cell body, cell wall. I'm not a doctor, I'm not a police form, not a criminal, but this is intersciences. Recorded how simple correlation is justifying itself per needs for pseudo-positive defenses, pseudo experts, in other words, that are criminally foreign influence here and there, but facilitated to it with and as. So in other words, we had branches with this that were raised as victim predator roles through criminally foreign influence sciences. See, but to understand this even before the colonization and through and a little bit beyond that, was exploiting how everyone was caused, how it was caused, and how everyone was already invested, blaming on other things and on others, and exploiting it, indifferent to it, hurt by it, all simultaneously, tortured by it, because the nature of laws were part of the method, not just against anybody, everybody. See, that's a phenomenon that worse than they failed their obligations than modern agencies each to explain, which was the motivations for roles with that. But they blame it on things like money and stuff, dishonestly, not letting lies, delusions, criminal foreign influence, and uses of branches originally instilled, and intermilitary originally instilled, maintained, measured, risen through life, where each age of fact treatment nature is directed to confess and to demonstrate and to exploit what overt criminal enterprises originally and still are really motivated for, the real motivations. And per as a method, consciously keep needing to keep means to maintain the juxtaposition of that relied on its areas juxtaposed victim predator criminal insidiousness natures like wrongdoers and wrongdoing in acts like predicate acts like mail crimes and stuff recorded with fake trade center conversations, with police forging doctors' names, and with crime rolls with criminal foreign influence, because it also demonstrated how there are by other nations families, how everyone is facilitated to on off campuses database illusion stacking in relationship to a crime method using the fact treatment nature of each age of fact treatment nature effectively originally and still cultivated where this is entirely a fact treatment nature where they knew that those database relationships were negative value nature in relationship to nature because they juxtaposed in layers already natures that couldn't defend themselves without database illusion stacking and writings about others. In other words, if someone of any color tried to complain about slavery, they would write other in databases and do bad things to them, and then write another tale, and have the news and have all the fake sides, which they're recorded doing. So once you do that, once you take part of that, you have to pretend you don't realize. You don't realize how everyone else could, but then you have to rely on collusion, recorded, maintained between various natures of the same and of other court and of interbranch, because victim predators too, with areas everyone's fact treatment nature, opinion natures, preventing correlation nature from demonstrating not only sick negotiations, pseudo-positive abridged constitution, sub-rosa active body of value treatment, sequence treatment, all faked. They would have interbranch collusion, forging, switching names so they can prevent perpetually through time anybody from countering their forced juxtaposed various natures of the time sequentially stacked hurt, fake care, identity thefts, sequence shifts, fake passion crimes, database illusion stacking crimes with areas, intercampuses, and in cases, and not just with cases. When they have alternatives to the crazy jail clicks, also recording and confessed and demonstrated completely involved with, criminal justice, undercover, here, there, shared policing of stores and of justifications of that, natures of that, roles with that the devil, since semi-ancient, it's a crime method that because the campus Marcius was criminally re-engineered before modern nations, and they knew that nature would continue to demonstrate nature's flaws because that was value unto itself as itself. The campus Marcius.com. I don't know if it's ancient gaming system.com. Ancientgamingsystem.com. I have to, it's pausing his pun. Where the Holy Ghost is a conjunction nature. distinctly and non-distinctly top down. I mean, overall down. Jesus Christ, the Son, the Father, the Son, and the Holy Ghost is immortal. The Son is an effects nature, male, left to right nature, and and the Father is a semi-effects, is a semi-affect nature. And affect is positive effects. And this affect nature, the semi-affect nature, is the phenomenon of being the only semi-nature that is simultaneously positive and positive in relationship to itself. As the distinct, as the nature it is, as a distinct and non-distinct relationship to all parts of temporary space nature, and or that juxtaposed already made through and as a quality of diffusion, as more positive value nature made here, or as more positive value nature in the form of negative value nature made from here, forced from here, leaf of IDs. That's why there's no plus on the negative, the sign of the negative. So these are ancient, revealed in the ancient republic before semi-ancient criminal reengineering of human achieving nature by criminal reengineering and defending justifications of behavior in relationship to database crimes that were also the substance and nature of intersciences, criminal foreign influences, physical delusions, and roles preventing free speech and getting away with it by stealing it, also with fake news. They pretend just because, in other words, the news was supposed to allow individuals their side, not faked. In other words, they fake conversation with me. They have sequence shifting crime roles with courts in cases and with their personal and other interbranch relationships to a pattern of recorded them stacking databases with fake conversations and relationships to me with people tied to them. As they're also tied to roles with sex offenders and tied untimely deaths. And before and with the sale of the house of the previous and new neighbors, their roles, the previous ones and the new ones, with evidence reception, bodies associated with houses, also with medical corruption, and with like nuns and stuff like that tied to undercovers and stuff like that, where they pretend their defenses of that, are all only what they're doing, but they're really involved with all kinds of abuses of each age of fact treating nature as a progression per crime methods, not just confessing, demonstrating the real recorded motivations. See, recorded, but then they're pretending things are recorded too, and they're not letting that recorded as roles with various natures of branches, stewards, and of areas raised in collusion with an as fact treatment nature that was set up knowing that it would have to hide life progressions by blaming their roles with and as the cause of it, and as that sustaining it as torture, and now other causes, other things, and on selves even. To especially per the obligations of our agencies, each modern nation, in relationship to the simple, only extensive, fact-cheating nature behavior crime, roles and motivations, and methods and influences with the branches with that originally instilled. and with that interpigment, in other words, collusions, whereas now that was set up to keep need to be the fake care that also pretends to be against, as recorded, pretends to be against racism as a method to ignore and pretend not to realize the recorded for sustained fake care and tortures and whole areas tactically originally and still. That was what was set up by those crazy laws with that against what anyone could even say, to the zoning laws and to the pathology of the houses before they even had cars, still played out. Tactically, the nature relationship to nature that they knew would cause negative value nature progressions, acts in natures that they were invested blaming on other things and other things. Now, they did this when they were doing this to the Native Americans. It was being done to keep kings trying to figure out a means to speak to their people through opinionatures as the value of states and areas only let realized through criminally foreign influenced sciences, force shared police, force shared locked to hiding natures together. In other words, needing to hurt correlation nature to show what they're really doing. In other words, and to keep everyone shut up and pretending things are other. That's not free speech. You see what I'm saying? What our founders didn't have, which is critical to explain, because that's what they're trying to hand up, and we're not letting them have it because we have the experts who know the most about them, pretending it's more complicated than it is, because all it was is James Madison and George Washington had to force everyone to fight because everyone was forced to pretend morality through this system, this crazy law. That slavery entrenched in the North and in Hartford and in Wethersfield and in Connecticut for a breaching organized crime method that had already perfected itself through nations, already entrenched itself here, internation maintained that only that nature of database relationship for a crime method by this, knowing that that was going to be what they could measure and keep, only let realized, fact cheap nature defenses of themselves pseudo-positive, and they could invest that to perpetually exploit the way our nature has a relationship to itself as a bond to all finite, active, and progressions values at once, as the cause to net positive value nature progression, evolution or not. You can see with your eyes with correlation what's causing, if you're really aware of this, not how we're packed into areas and what's involved with that, with value nature system that's recorded criminally foreign influenced, and with everyone's role blaming it, the causes of it on other things and on others, as opinion natures preventing demonstration of that, forcing all kinds of dishonest fake opinions, offensively preventing the protraction of correlation nature, preventing demonstration of how the sciences share an identity. Instead, they're obfuscating each of the sciences and maintaining that the motivations and natures and needs of the roles in relationship to database illusion stacking motivations and roles. In fact, achieving nature opinions about others and about themselves and about on off campuses relationships, reality relationships. That only, so the the Father is about the affect nature, which is a little bit more and more of the complete identity of space coming into and out of temporary space nature, where it can't, but its relationship to itself can a little bit more and more per the phenomenon of us being closest to the greatest volume of the inherent nature of the complete identity of space, that is also an identity of nature, a value that is before temporary space nature, and was valued a little bit beyond what temporary space nature could be, and or even with more forever nature making more space nature, because there's the Trinity and these two value before and beyond this anyways from the beginning, before matter was generated by this. It was already 5 pillars of one bonded identity onto itself, that is the perfect value nature progression, which is an inherent, active, and progressive nature of volume together, and its volume and its relationship to itself, which is invisible but still discernible, the same way oxygen is, the same way carbon gases are. So we have an abridged constitution, and then we have, sub-rosa, trick fact cheating nature, and then theater about by that as a criminal insidiousness nature. I'm not a lead lawyer in the police form criminal insidiousness nature, because of our relationship to nature's value of campus's value nature relationship to itself, as that revealed naturally before criminal foreign influences, natural only per criminal enterprise, an archetypal criminal enterprise, the devil. So we could use correlation as evidence and demonstrate worse. Not demonstrate there was database illusion stacking only capable of being, that correlation demonstrates when you have treatments of the past. So we have that not realized, because that was still where they're only telling certain kids about all the bad things, but not other kids in the suburbs. They were saying, "Oh, that's bad," because they don't know how. Not just because they don't know how to speak about it, because that was maintained consciously. Each age of fact cheating nature, all the adults today are victim predators of a child abuse. In the past, they used to beat kids with school. That was per a method that was already perfected itself, had everyone juxtaposed to other motivations, natures, and needs to tell the same lies as the breaching organized crime that maintains itself there and here as an identity shared by internation police there and here, but not sourced by one, but just their reaction. Then they're investing to that within as tactically maintained sub-rosa active body of value and progressive value constitution abridged trick fact cheating nature roles, database illusion stacking roles, not just in cases, and not just with their databases, and not just with their communications with interbranch evidence reception bodies, and where and has and how this is a body of value nature relationship to itself, discernment system, existence, real fact cheating nature, real sequence nature, truth, real mandated law follow. See, WFSB and Fox CT and other Connecticut media also reported and confessed directly to use their private lawyers and police forms, private and collusion. In other words, their association were retired and standing further involved criminally with more sex offenders tied to the ones tied to them through time, and connections between untimely deaths with their roles with identity crimes with interbranch police on and off campuses, exploiting also other natures of crime tied to that, maintained as live progressions, then cultivated with areas. In other words, stacking fake conversations. They have crime method where they make fact treatments where they're pretending passions and they're pretending it's for legalized rights, whereas they know it's legalized only as a fact treatment nature racket that they're using for criminally, and not let that recorded. And then every time they're stacking other, they're saying other in databases. So like if Dr. King or anybody of any color, any pigment shade tries to make an actual a complaint about what was really recorded juxtaposed crime methods consciously tied to not just a pattern. See, the agencies and the branches are also recorded, aware that they have roles with crimes with evidence reception and with statistical receptions and on off campuses in relationship to this on and off campuses. Natures of relationship to itself that's being exploited. There's a detective Samuda who's recorded and confessed involved with courts in Connecticut associated with all kinds of natures of crime like sequence shifting, identity thefts. Him pretending he was an officer that arrested me as their means to hide the recorded roles with on-off campus sex crime acts, rape threats, abuses of kids on-off campuses, of not of more complex natures, just only because of the fact sheet nature approaches and sequence shifting and fake behaviors being forced per interbranch, intermilitary, already recorded, invested, needed to cover up live progressions from all that was off the records with them foreign also, criminally foreign influence, having exploited their means, needs, and natures to steal people's free speech and to do it with databases in insidious ways, in cases and with campuses and with fake news, simultaneously preventing responses and asking for no responses, and then writing other, juxtaposing time where confessions are made and recorded all kinds of juxtaposed natures of crime and more criminals juxtaposed by courts and by their roles with interbranch forging names, identity thefts with the family members extended tied to the recorded pattern of criminality with criminal justice and with their roles with each age of fact treatment nature, not realized, being exploited as a progression nature relationship to itself, affected by database illusion stacking roles motivated by a crime method that is having kids to not complicated but extensive directed sequential demonstrations, confessions, and recorded crime roles needed to further the same, needing to and acting to, and then acting to hide the further the same criminal foreign influences and needs and lies and natures and progressions with overt criminal enterprises, juxtaposed, recorded, juxtaposed tactically for other natures of organized crime and for other roles with worse than physical delusions with psychology, everything it's tied to. So we have to convert that, especially, in other words, for triage relationships. Those triage places and natures of interbranch police and courts associated with various natures of the same and other courts have been using all that tied to them and to their roles with experts originally and still maintain manifest as fact-driven nature needing to exploit and to stay indifferent to, and worse, and to further how types of crimes are being forced treated separately to maintain what was is recorded consciously juxtaposing originally instilled natures of crimes and of crime roles within as the nature of courts, with the stream of courts maintaining them all as victim predators, most of the people coming into the courts, and as completely innocent, also being used to stick their needs to hide life progressions, their own nature's need to hide from correlation nature, because they're also recorded with crime methods for this one where they're making and directing fake sides of issues and then needing news for this too. See, because everyone's taking their job relying upon other people's information and relying upon, groupthink with database solution stacking, where everyone's job is told to think, not think, and rely on investigators. Recorded originally, still effectively, maintain criminally foreign influence through what was internatures of campus, keeping branches originally propagated as life progression cover-up natures measured and exploited in relationship to their database relationships, in relationship to each family as a correlation nature seen within as all formal, needing to hurt and to have hurt and to appreciate her correlation nature and to appreciate and to value more and more what uses the phenomena of each title's criminal uses by this as victims, but as means to keep them more and more valued as victim predators with the concept of their titles. Now let demonstrate how that was is being exploited by the criminal relationship and roles with other nations, with off the records, they're here. Real means to the motivations of people why they're really leaking information. Because, it's tied to worse than, see, forgiveness was for this, but only for us all together, because we're in a value nature system that forces the effects nature that the Father is, and that the Son are simultaneously, the Son as an effects nature. The Son is effects nature. The Father, the Son, and the Holy Ghost. The Holy Ghost is a conjunction nature, as where and how we're a complete nature that is still only a semi-nature relationship to the complete nature and to the semi-nature of space that is complete semi-nature relationship to itself, where and how a little bit more and more of its identity is coming through here and staying here or being forced away. See, so we have an abridged constitution. We have free speech now led. We have truth, sequence nature now led. We have election crimes now led recorded. We have the people involved with them recorded, pretending to care against. In other words, they're using recorded consciously interbranch actors facilitated as live progression cover up nature tools. I forgot what I was talking about. Bad. So we have free speech not let. We have identity theft crimes, force sustained, database solution stack crimes not let. We're told the same sex offenders, not also women, because their motivations, needs, and natures were raised into branch with evidence collection, evidence perception bodies, spreading rumors with originally propagated interbranch criminally foreign influenced branches through what originally instilled has recorded overt criminal enterprises to collusion, also with all kinds of natures undercover policing of stores and stuff like that. And then justifications of fact treating nature as law, voices, all as identities of value, that you can't defend that and speak for the law as its nature at the same time, which is truth, true sequence. We have courts needing to hide how they weren't true through time and how they were facilitated by this through what had and has them juxtaposed with criminal justice families, all that tied to the jobs with that. Raised needing to hide life progressions, especially with psychology, tied to their roles with what the Santa Claus is also about. Santa Claus is about the prisons and how medical corruption and stuff like that, and slavery is intercultural. It's the fact cheating nature racket that is still uncharged but recorded. And not only is it recorded, if you try to tell on it, its acts, its crime acts, you get hurt, you get tortured by fake care, by evidence crimes, database solution stacking crimes, and one's exploiting what was reported, doing this vertically and horizontally through time, not just in the regular order, because it's exploiting the way the identity of space is a relationship to itself. That is, but they're anticipating this, and we're setting up, then appreciated, and then exploited when federal investigations come along. Other natures of those same and other agencies, and other nations' agencies and families and military already in collusion, needing to cover up line progressions, needing to make their titles, which are millions and millions of people, mean what they don't. In other words, for example, for their motivations, for their roles, with a bridge fact treatment nature, with and as opinion nature originally instilled, preventing free speech and in collusion with what writes other in databases and multi-front fake sides of issues, fake middle of issues with that, because they're doing fake Trinity nature, they're doing fake sequence nature, they're faking recorded things in databases, interbranch forging names, and with doctors and with their federal criminals recorded in collusion with the sex crime acts and roles and methods, recorded consciously, sabotaging boys and girls distinctly and non-distinctly consciously, each age of fact cheating nature, intercampuses on off this through all that really tied to the database relationships and the networks and into the originally and worse, more and more valued original negotiating with terrorism and pretending other, and then defending that as fact treating nature, top down areas as the states forcing that to pretend it doesn't realize itself, because we're in a value nature system. Value nature is being discerned distinctly here from values nature, because values nature is simultaneously semi before and semi beyond to other semi natures of itself, that are gaining value as the Trinity gains value. Here or force from here. It's only like gain value though. That's how it is in effects nature. So that affects nature, and when our value goes from here a little bit more of the inherent nature, that is to also to the inherent to the active nature, into the progressive nature, simultaneously of our nature, a little bit more and more of that goes out into space, and that makes what was already made as forever nature more positive here, more valuable to be pulled away from here. Not but a positive way, not as lethal IDs. In other words, when lethal IDs took too much of Earth's value, which is soon, we blow ourselves up, or the pendulum of outer space takes us out, because no longer are we closest to the most, the phenomenon of being closest. No longer will we be the phenomenon of being the closest to the greatest inherent nature of the greatest volume of the inherent nature of a space's identity, that has the perfect value progression simultaneously going out of temporary space nature and coming into it as that perfect value progression gain. Begin to train. So an affect causes effects. And when that affect and those effects are both positive onto itself, that's where and how the Holy Ghost also has a positive relationship to the rest of the complete identity of space. First, through a semi-nature relationship to that too. But you can see this when we map it out. What the ancient snow people are for. YouTube.com. YouTube.com/user/Romulus Wall. And YouTuber Anthony Wall. They had that taken. I believe in Irish cough. Good day, mate. Oh, that's. It's also demonstrated that Australia has roles with psychology and with, interbranch police corruption that's on and off campuses. The same way every modern nation has this inter-campuses. In other words, they're posting things, trying to instigate Kim Il-sung on his Facebook page. These are only methods to maintain states and areas inclusion, blamed on others. They already did that. They were already measured at each modern nation and exploited, invested, needed to hide their fact treatments and their fact treatment nature, to as the value of their treatments of all issues to all areas, and ground pretended positive there and here, because the campus from Marcius was criminally foreign influence. So they don't have appreciation of the native, the real native potentials, and the real native culture, which is a clear body of value that is inseparable from and as us still. The value of being different nations is the same value as being different sexes, having that inseparable from us, ourselves, from and as ourselves, because that's value to see what is also inseparable from that, which is the perfect course, which is the identity the sciences share. So we have to learn to value nature, because it affects nature. So the sun Jesus Christ is about how we are an effects nature, and the halo is about this. Why the halo is with the A on the left side of a picture of Jesus I saw on I don't know, from the old art of Jesus on the Yale. They draw the alpha like an A. When he says I am the alpha, he is the alpha, he is the omega. Then say on his right side he has the W, the wall. This is where the cell, nucleus, cell body, cell wall, body of value discernment is the subject. Primitively re-engineered sciences, Campus Marcius, the campusmarcius.com, spelled with a C, not a T. For all your needs, Bucks. I'll tell you things. You see. So, that's the secret. That is the complete body of value. Is then a semi-nature. Every semi-nature also has made a complete body of value in relationship to the body of value coming through all semi-natures. Because it is the only semi-nature at the same time that is simultaneously positive and positive relationship to itself. Which when we map it out shows how we can discern why and how there are 5 pillars to the Yin Yang, to the Trinity. Even within this, where and how simultaneously as a body of value, as value, all finite in the order of it, it's also the order onto itself. That is the simultaneously distinct, non-distinct relationship that the identity of existence / space has onto all parts of itself. So, too, this comes to how distinctly and non-distinctly each modern nation was tricked, hurt, simultaneously persuaded, tortured, and stayed methodically tools by the same crime method, needing to value and to in other words, for example, with the women, the ancient revealed the way it explained the difference between men and women, which is difference nature, which is a nature that is simultaneously the value of each and beyond that, and its relationship to itself that is non-distinctly to itself and only allowing perfect value nature progression here or forcing it from here. But per its system, where everywhere it is, it's its own value. And in value nature relationship to itself that causes positive or value or negative value nature progressions. But it's not just so even they go down to, they ask kids who if they hurt animals and stuff like that. Because you learn things like that, but what they're trying to learn, they're setting up, and they're attaching kids to fake conversations and relationships to others, even with doctors. Fake news is doing this too. They're also doing that. They're preventing people free speech by stealing it, so that's worse. And then they're all reliant upon other people, then invested and directed to more crime rules with the courts, especially various natures in the same courts and of other nature courts that are motivated to it per their roles with database illusion stacking intercampuses and with interbranch rackets worse than intercity and interstate coordinated masters of covering of live progressions from presidents. Because even the agencies were raised, for example, defending and told to look away from what their leadership. You're going to come in with a low rank. And then you by the time you're justify ignoring all the things that agencies are criminally involved with, for example, explaining and telling about their roles with crimes with police equipment and with gangs, narrating it on TV all the time, and then torturing people by pretending they had conversations about these things in real life with the same people, the same doctors and courts involved with drug crimes and with sex crime cliques used to hurt on and off campuses the life progressions. I mean, the value of progression of correlation nature by having by anticipated relationships to reactions to crime methods, where and how originally enslaved overt criminal enterprises and their causes and their effects and their acts and natures are blamed on other things and on others and on selves, the real causes of them. And this is not demonstrated, and their physical delusion propagated with opinion natures only that realize demonstrated dishonest. So we don't have free speech in courts because they won't follow the rules. And their database illusion stacking through time, attaching people to more and more things off the record. Identity crime roles where they're told not to speak medical information. They've been using that with drug cliques, evidence fabrication natures with courts of various natures tied to them with this, and then they need to cover up life progressions. Then when people need to demonstrate with correlation that they've been stacking means and motivations and needs and natures to positions with everything private, intercampus, and interbranch, and all tied to that, needing to hide life progressions by pretending they don't understand people while they're stacking fake conversations, prevented speech, and courts in collusion with interbranch officers, foreign police, and military, forging names, switching names, stacking multiple fake police reports, identity theft crimes, sequence shift crimes for the same arrests used to keep victims of interbranch and other recorded juxtaposed, forced, sustained, further roles with the principal sex offender, just worse than his, with intercampuses through time already, sequence shifting horizontally and vertically. I mean, up and down, with kids growing up in relationship to the campuses they connected to database illusion stacking acts connected to their crime acts and roles within, as these actors also reported and confessed involved with families and federal criminals, and the former director of the FBI also recorded, non-verbally confirmed to me his roles with he's tied to a Thaddeus Grabowski, who also repeated demonstrations of his roles with the Domain family, with the Mendez family, with a Mulcahy family, women, and a Leahy family, women too, and men, involved with child offenders of various natures through time. Database solutions stack identity theft crime rolls with campuses and with cases at the same time with their interbranch database. A former Mayor Gold recorded and confessed involved with a Joe Isle recorded and confessed involved with people involved with mail crimes and with UPS criminally and stuff like that. All this was and with cross on motive and another motive, another mobile in town line road, also recorded and confessed with policing of the stores on and off that the area with the child offenders of various natures. Stop and Shop and reportedly like Senator Lieberman and his wife recorded and confessed and demonstrated tied to Ray Hernandez and other interbranch actors shown and told lies per juxtaposed like Pakistani doctors and stuff like that with crime rolls like with the Morrow family and with the Kerr family and with their more complicated roles with a Phil Cololo recorded and confessed in a Scalora family recorded and confessed involved with and as the rest of the cliques already recorded and confessed involved with crime roles with proven sex offenders, with interbranch actors who've been forging and switching names, and with crimes with retired and standing detectives and police forms and interbranch families associated with Hartford Hospital, and with a Dillon family recorded and confessed involved with crimes with people associated with the family members of the sex offenders that were tied to them 2 years. Or people tied, recorded and confessed involved with them. I have a conversation with him the 2 times he made nonverbal comfort. 3 times he approached me with in life. 3 nonverbal confirmations of his roles. 2 times, with child crimes and with tied to police with the stores and with their relationship to the stores, And there are people at Hartford Hospital who also recorded, confessed, and demonstrated involved with name forging with them. All contractual crimes with patients and with the system of the hospital, and criminal uses of private police in conjunction with this. All the programs in conjunction with this. It's also tied to why and how. Excuse me. It's my team.